Ready, steady, go.
So let's continue, Supriya, with the plant-water relations that we had started in the previous lecture. You remember we had given the introduction, basically why water is such a unique compound on the earth, right? And what are its general properties which help the living organisms to survive? And it is one of the major components of every part of the living organisms, correct? So we have seen basically, like we were just about to begin with, the absorption part of plants. Like when it comes to plant-water relations, okay, we have seen the fact that the relationship of water with the plants exists in three main steps. One is absorption, which takes place from the roots. Second one is translocation.
Translocation.
And third one is when the water is lost from the aerial parts. What is it called as?
Absorption. Absorption.
Absorption is what happens from the roots.
Roots, yes.
Taken up.
What did you ask?
Listen. Your response to stimulus is like short-circuited. Listen. Water is absorbed from the roots.
Yes, you're right.
Water is translocated through the stem all the way to the leaves.
Correct.
In the leaves, the water is used up, but what happens to the extra amount of water in the leaves? It is evaporated. Check translation. What happens in that?
Transcription. Sorry.
You have a sellotape over there?
Okay, you say it.
You remember something called transpiration?
Conspiration. Oh, yes.
Transpiration. Rather?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Transcription, translation. Okay. So let's continue that part. So here in this lesson, we have to learn in detail how the absorption of water takes place. Okay. How the water is translocated upwards into the stem against gravity. How it ensures that every leaf of the plant gets that water. And thirdly, the water after is being used up, what happens to the extra amount of the water? So inside the plant, this is a topic under plant physiology. We are talking about the functional aspects of the plants, right? So in this picture, as you can see, a general, considering an ideal plant under ideal conditions. Okay, under abnormal or stress conditions, kya hota hai? That's a different thing. Okay, so here, this is a plant. Okay, as you can see, the root system is extensively spread out into the soil. Okay, that is where the water is absorbed and it is translocated into the trunk, into the branches, all the way to the leaves.
Yes,
so correct. It is ensuring the internal system is made in such a way that it ensures the supply of water to every leaf of the plant. That's the main, very important point. So let's talk about the roots now. Let's go into the soil and see the roots. Okay. So in a plant, when the roots are growing, you know very well, in a normal plant, when the roots grow, the growth is from the tip of the roots. Okay, so the tip of the root has got a meristematic tissue present called apical meristem.
It is meristematic.
Yes, and this is the portion which is growing into the soil. So it is physically in contact with the soil particles, pushing them so that the roots can grow.
Correct.
And in that process, it might happen that the roots can suffer from a damage. Suffer from damage because of the physical pushing of the soil. That's why nature has provided the roots with something called as root cap. It protects the growing portion of the root, because if a meristematic portion, if this gets damaged, then the roots will not grow further.
But right, you're right.
Okay.
Correct.
So that's the region of the meristematic activity covered with the root cap. Just below the meristematic activity, there is a region of elongation. Where the newly formed cells of the meristematic activity get elongated or enlarged in this portion.
Yes, correct.
And then there is a region of maturation. In this region of maturation, there are the root hairs which are present.
Yes.
The root hair is the one which are thin and delicate cells directly in contact with the soil, and they are the ones that absorb water for the plants.
Yes.
So a
Root
root
hair.
system, if you see, already you have seen the different regions of the root in the 11th standard lesson on morphology also. Okay, but here we are talking about it from plant physiology point of view.
Yes,
So
correct.
you know very well that in a root, the root hair are the one which is the region of absorption. So basically in a plant, when you talk about the roots, it has got two functions. You can tell them in two different words. First one is absorption,
Absorption.
and second one is anchorage.
Encourage.
Anchorage, 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 ANCHOR.
Anchorage.
Anchorage का मतलब क्या है? It is the one that holds the soil in such a way that the entire plant is supported.
Oh,
Mechanical.
how cool.
अगर ये जड़ें टूट जाए तो plant गिर जाएगा ना? It's like that.
Correct.
As you can see, this is a tree. So the roots are nicely supported inside the soil so that the plants are supported.
Yes, correct.
Understood the functions?
Understood.
Okay. So let's take a look at the root hair now. Okay. So here, if you see the structure of a taproot, so there is a main stem that continues down to form the main root, which has got branches called secondary roots, which have further branches called the tertiary roots,
Tertiary
at
roots.
the ends of
Yes.
which you have the root hair present.
Of course.
Okay, so
Yes.
that way they are distributed. So if you see the root hair, okay, at the microscopic level, root
Yes.
hair, okay. So if you observe carefully, the cells of the root, whether it is secondary, tertiary, or the primary root, it has got an epidermal layer first. It has got a covering layer called epidermis. Okay, I'll show you this way. See, a root normally, if you see any branch of the root, primary, secondary, or tertiary, it has got a somewhat cylindrical structure.
Yes.
So if I take a section of the root, okay, so it will appear circular in outline, somewhat.
Okay.
It will appear circular in outline. So the cells which are there towards the edges or the covering, उनको बोलते हैं epidermis.
Oh, okay, got
Epi
it.
means above, derma means layer or cover.
Okay.
So
Above
cells
layer.
of the epidermis. There are different regions: epidermis, cortex, endodermis, pericycle. ये सब अलग-अलग layers हैं. Okay, if you observe the study the primary structure of a root stem or a leaf, there you will be able to see all that. तो अभी के लिए इतना समझना कि रूट के जो कवरिंग लेयर है that is called as the epidermis.
Epidermis.
Now ये जो cells दिख रहे हैं, these rectangular ones, these are the cells of the epidermis.
Okay.
रूट के एपिडर्मिस को बोलते हैं rhizodermis.
Oh.
Okay. So the cells of the rhizodermis at different regions, they give out root hair like this.
That is the root hair?
Yes. अभी यहाँ बड़ा माइक्रोस्कोप if you देखेंगे तो they हाँ you can see like they are very tiny branches.
Yes,
but यहाँ
correct.
पे देखना माइक्रोस्कोपिक व्यू, the root hair, I mean the epidermis, उसका जो cell wall है that extends and gives rise to an outgrowth in the form of a root hair. Got it? Okay.
Got it.
So
Yes.
the root hair ultimately arises from the epidermis.
Yes, correct.
It arises from the epidermis.
Yes.
Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay.
So wait,
Now, बोलो.
rhizodermis
is
क्या
the
है?
epidermis of the root, nothing else.
Okay, got it.
Rhizodermis भी बोलते हैं, epiblema भी बोलते हैं.
Epiblema. What is epiblema?
Epidermis of the root, nothing else.
Okay. Okay.
Rhizodermis या epiblema बोलते हैं. Okay, the root epithelial cells लिखा है. So the cells extend, the cell wall extends to form a root hair. You can see अलग से cell नहीं है, उसी का extension है. And उसके अंदर जो cytoplasm है, that is also extended or included in the root hair.
Okay.
Getting it? The root hair epidermis also has got its own nucleus. So it becomes the nucleus for the root hair also.
Correct.
There is a
Yes.
cell wall, there is a cell membrane, the
There is
cytoplasm.
a mitochondria.
You can see the vacuole also extended into this. There are mitochondria present. So root hair is involved in all that. But
Yes.
the cell wall of the root hair at the tips, it is a thin one. It is not very thick as compared to that of the epiblema. जैसे जैसे
Oh, that's
extend
the
होता है ना, तो
difference.
it is thin. It has to be thin because वहां से absorption होता है ना.
Okay.
Getting it? For that
Yes.
reason, it is not very thick.
Okay, got it.
Understood the
Yes.
structure of the root hair properly?
Yes.
Okay, that is very important. Now,
Okay, got it.
you may have a potted plant at home, or you might have a garden where you can see that the plants are growing, they have been taken care of. So the
Yes.
most commonest thing which as a layman you do for the plants is that you add water to the soil.
Correct.
Every day you add water to the soil. But all the water that you add to the soil, is it available to the plants? No. See this.
Yes. Tell
There
me
are
that.
3 different types of water. Actually 4.
Okay.
Okay. So
Types
consider
of water.
types of water in the soil
type.
for the plants. Yes.
What?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell
See,
me.
it's not about chemical types. अभी देखिए soil है. ठीक है? You are adding water to this. So when the water is added to the soil क्या है basically? It's an aggregate of many particles. If you just take soil in your hand and observe the texture, you will find lots of pieces. Very small ones, somewhat big ones.
Yes.
Okay, it depends from one soil type to another. So you have silt, you have clay, you have loam, you have sand. अलग-अलग type के soil होते हैं. And the particle size varies. Correct? So when you add water to the soil, a large proportion of that water just goes down into the soil due to gravity.
Yes.
Soil particles के बीच में से एकदम नीचे चला जाए. So much below the earth's surface, there is something called as groundwater.
Groundwater.
So the gravitational water that becomes a part of the groundwater.
Yes.
So that is not available actually to the plants. The groundwater जो है gravitational water ये इतना नीचे जाता है.
You told me.
This does not become available to the plants.
Correct.
Okay. Second type is something called hygroscopic water. Hygroscopic. Hygro. Okay. Now what is hygroscopic water? See this. Water is actually, soil is actually made up of particles, as I said.
Yes.
Small, big, alag shapes and sizes. Okay. There will be water molecules. You remember last time we had mentioned a word called adhesive force and cohesive force. Yaad hai?
Yes.
Cohesive force means between force of attraction between same type of molecules. And adhesive force means the force of attraction between molecules of different types.
Yes.
So there will be force of attraction between water molecules and the particles of the soil.
Yes.
So that's why soil के particles के साथ यहाँ पर कुछ water molecules attached with every soil particle. That water is called hygroscopic water. It is like kind of adsorbed by the soil particles.
Yes.
So ये इस तरह से soil particles को attached है कि that cannot be available to the plants.
Okay, got it. समझ गया.
Got it? That's why gravitational water, hygroscopic water, not available to the plants.
Okay, got it.
Third type is combined water. Combined means chemically bound.
Yes.
It is a part of some molecule. Just as some of the salts in chemistry, you must be learning about water of crystallization.
Water of
crystallization.
Yes.
तो जैसे सोडियम कार्बोनेट है, इन सबके वाटर ऑफ मॉलिक्यूल ऑफ क्रिस्टलाइजेशन होते हैं. So they are chemically combined to other molecules. तो soil में भी बहुत सारे chemicals, it depends from one part to another.
Yes.
Okay, तो उसके साथ combined रहेगा, तो again that won't be available to the plants. जैसे soil also contains air.
Yes.
Okay, तो soil में जब air है तो उसमें gases है. And water combines with some gases to form other compounds.
हाँ.
Like carbon dioxide के साथ combine हो गया तो carbonic acid बन जाएगा. तो वो पानी available नहीं रहेगा plants को.
Yes,
So gravitational, hygroscopic, combined, not available to the plants. The only
Correct.
water which is available to the plants is something called capillary water.
What is a capillary water?
See, you can see this soil particles as I said.
Yes.
तो इसके just particles के ऊपर जो चिपके हुआ पानी है वो hygroscopic है.
Yes, correct.
But there is some water which is present between the soil particles.
Between?
Yes.
बीच में?
In the minute pores between the soil particles.
What?
सब soil particles के बीच बीच में minute pores में जो पानी रहेगा, that can be absorbed by the root hair.
Oh.
That is capillary water. Imagine कर, like suppose on the table that you have, ठीक है? Table पे पानी गिर गया.
Okay, गिराती हूँ.
या नहीं गिरा मत, सुन कर.
Okay. Tell
Suppose
me.
you spill water on the table and
Okay.
उस पानी के ऊपर मैं एक ऐसा न्यूज़पेपर पकड़ता या टिश्यू पेपर पकड़ता. So do you actually see the water rising up in the newspaper? जैसे एकदम सूखा न्यूज़पेपर लिया, उसको just touch किया पानी से. Do you notice the water just rising up? That is capillary action.
Oh.
Because newspaper के particles के बीच बीच में से पानी ऊपर आता है.
हाँ. Yes.
Capillary force. तो plants का जो root hair है, when it is in contact with the soil, it is in contact with the capillary water, and that is absorbed by the plants and used for its purpose.
Okay, got it.
Did you understand?
Understood.
Okay, so when you talk about the different types of water available for the plants, there are 4 types: gravitational, hygroscopic, combined, and capillary. But the one
Yes, correct.
used and available for the plant is capillary water.
Capillary water.
Is that clear?
Clear.
अच्छे से समझना है, ठीक है?
अच्छे से समझा.
Okay, so capillary water is finally taken by the plant.
Yes.
So the first step that I said is absorption. Correct? Water is absorbed by the root hair of the plant. So this absorption of water takes place in 3 sequential steps. 3 steps, one after the other. Okay? So in 3 sequential steps, that means one after the other, there are 3 steps in which the absorption of the water takes place. Okay? The first step is called as imbibition.
Imbibition.
Okay? Imbibition. Second step is called diffusion. We'll see them one by one. Okay? And third one is called osmosis.
Osmosis.
Yes. So imbibition, diffusion, followed by osmosis, the 3 steps in which absorption of the water takes place. Okay, so talking about imbibition, what is that? Just a simple example. Imbibition, you know this dry grapes, द्राक्ष जो बोलते हैं, we have it, we eat it, है ना? तो जो एकदम ऐसा सूखा हुआ पिचका हुआ रहता है, right? So that when you take and you put that in water and keep it for some time, do you observe after some time that it swells up? Right? That process is known as imbibition. So basically what is imbibition? Uska definition dekh. The process of a temporary increase in the volume of the cell due to absorption of water. Okay, you keep that cell. Now drugs ke jagah pe plant ke cell ko imagine kar. You keep that in the water and there is absorption of the water that takes place by the solid colloidal substances present on the cell wall.
Yes.
Okay, without forming any solution. It is
Yes.
just adsorption. Absorption से भी better word होगा adsorption.
Absorption. But
You can say
absorption is ऊपर से ऐसे जाने का.
ऊपर से, only on the surface when it takes and it
Yes.
swells up. Then it is called
Yes.
imbibition. So you take a beaker
Imbibition.
containing water, add some dry seeds to it. After some time, you will
Okay.
see that the seeds are swollen up.
Yes.
That is
जादू.
imbibition. Got it? ये उसका
Okay.
definition. ठीक है?
Imbibition.
So when you talk
Yes.
about imbibition, any such substance, okay, that imbibes or absorbs the water, उसको बोलते हैं imbibant. Okay, so here in the case of
Imbibant.
plant cells, it is the
What is
cell,
imbibant?
the substance which absorbs the water.
Absorbs the water. Okay.
Yes, any such substance that absorbs the water is the imbibant. Okay,
Imbibant.
so in the
Okay.
case of seeds, it will be the seed covering, that is the seed coat, or the protoplasm of the cell. They are the ones that absorb the water. So उनको
Okay.
हम लोग imbibant बोलते हैं. Okay, and different types of substances, they have their own imbibing capacities. So according to the material or the chemical nature of that substance, the imbibing capacity will be different. Okay,
Yes. Correct.
how much it can take up the imbibition. So it's like proteins, they have very high imbibing capacity.
Correct.
Okay, less than that is seen in starch, and very least
Yes.
imbibing capacity is found in cellulose. So these examples you can remember. Okay,
Okay.
that's why if you take pea seeds and you take wheat seeds, wheat grains, तो pea
Yes.
seeds में protein ज़्यादा है, wheat grains में starch ज़्यादा है.
हाँ.
So you take and you compare, like you can see two different beakers, both of them
Okay.
you take water. एक में pea के
Okay.
pea seeds डालना, दूसरे में wheat के grains डालना. Put equal number of
Okay.
the seeds. Okay, and then you see swell होने के लिए किसको ज़्यादा time लगता है. So you will see that the pea seeds swell more and faster as compared to the wheat grains.
Okay. Got it.
Because pea seeds में
Yes.
protein ज़्यादा है, wheat grains में starch ज़्यादा है.
हाँ. Yes.
Yes.
हाँ.
So पहला हमने एक word देखा called imbibant. That means any such substance which absorbs the water.
Yes. Correct.
Now, most often it is the water which is absorbed. But if there is some other material that is absorbed, so whatever is absorbed or imbibed, उसको बोलेंगे imbibate. So the process is called imbibition. Okay, the substance which is being absorbed is called imbibate, and
Yes.
the process, the substance which is absorbing it is called imbibant.
Okay. Got it.
So the most common imbibate is water.
Water. Yes.
Got these points clearly?
Yes. Clearly.
Okay. So for the imbibition to take place, what are the conditions required? ये कब होगा imbibition? Firstly,
Yes.
between the imbibant and the imbibate, there has to be a water potential gradient. When you say the word gradient, it means there is a difference.
Difference.
One substance should have more water, one substance should have less water. So imbibition will take place.
Okay. Got
That's
it.
the first condition. Okay.
Okay.
And between the imbibant and the imbibate, there has to be some force of attraction. Only then the imbibition will take place. And that is logical.
Yes.
है ना? जैसे if you imagine oil and water, so as such force of attraction नहीं है. It's very, very less. So imbibition cannot be expected. And if any substance, you increase the temperature to some extent, the imbibition will also slightly increase.
Correct.
So suppose at a given temperature, there is imbibition taking place up to a certain extent, after which the imbibition stops. Then you increase the temperature slightly, you will see more imbibition is taking place. Got it? So for the increased imbibition to happen, there has to be increase in the temperature. That's the first step.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Understood the points, conditions?
Yes.
So here you see how it
what
is significant for the plants. See, you take a seed and you put it into the soil, so it will germinate. Correct?
Wow.
So when the seed will germinate, that means the embryo inside has to break open the seed coat and emerge out. And seed coat is a tough one. So soil में जब हम seed डालते हैं, तो soil contains the water. The water is imbibed into the seed coat.
Correct.
because of which the seed coat swells. Okay,
Yes.
and then the seed coat ruptures and the
Hmm.
endosperm comes out.
Correct.
So there is
Yes.
increased imbibitional pressure from within the cell, because of which
Yes.
there is a rupturing of the seed coat observed. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, this also you have seen swelling of the seeds when soaked in water.
Yes.
Okay, so you can see the pea seeds एकदम frozen dried one. Okay, सब पानी में डालने के बाद सूख जाता है पूरा.
Oh wow. I can see it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
How cool.
Now there is a term called imbibition pressure.
Wow. Okay.
Imbibition
Perfect.
pressure means like any such substance which is doing the imbibition, you keep it in a confined space, in a small space. जैसे अभी test tube में दिखा है. Initially it's a small one, but when it does the imbibition, the volume of the imbibant increases after
Yes.
imbibition.
Yes.
So when the volume of the imbibant increases, there is a pressure created because the space is less. It's a confined space.
Yes.
Okay. So there is a pressure developed due to that.
Correct.
Called the imbibition pressure.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. So in the soil, when the seed is there, the imbibition pressure is the one which is responsible for separating the soil particles and the cotyledons or the embryo emerging out.
Okay.
So the imbibition pressure is necessary.
Got it.
So for the imbibition, what are the factors that influence? There are lots of factors. Okay. So the capacity or the degree of imbibition, it will vary from one substance to another. So there are factors like the texture of the imbibant. Rough surface or a smooth surface, there will be a difference. The rough surface will do more imbibition. Okay. Affinity of the imbibant for the imbibate. That means it depends upon the force of attraction between both of them. Temperature, as I said, increased temperature, more imbibition.
Yes.
Okay. Increased pressure, more imbibition, and also the pH.
pH.
Yes. Factors हैं जो imbibition को influence करते हैं. How much it can increase or decrease. Okay.
Yes.
And talking about the role of the imbibition in plants. Okay, it is the first step in the absorption of water by the roots. So initially, as we saw, it is the root hair which actually does the absorption, and it is the capillary water in the soil which is being absorbed.
Yes.
So capillary water in the soil undergoes, or the root hair undergoes imbibition of the capillary water, and absorption takes place.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Got it.
When the cell walls, they do the imbibition, the cells remain moist. The cells don't become dry. The imbibition is necessary. Okay. It is also helpful for seed germination, as we saw. Okay. When the seed germinates, there will be a small seedling coming out through the soil. Once the seedling becomes a sapling, there will be a translocation of sap in the plants. Okay. Conduction of the water with the dissolved minerals. For all that, imbibition is necessary.
Okay, got it.
And importance maybe again it is the same step as I said, dominant and the first step. The first step of even seed germination, and the seedling is able to come out of the soil due to the development of imbibitional
pressure. Yes.
Understood that? Imbibition is clear properly?
Clear properly.
अच्छी तरह से, ठीक है?
Yes.
Now the next is something called diffusion.
Diffusion?
Yes. Imagine. Diffusion समझने के लिए क्या करना है? Imagine like in your room. Okay. Now suppose you take you know that incense stick, agarbatti. Yes. So that incense stick or agarbatti you take, okay, and you spray it like जैसे अगरबत्ती को जलाते हैं तो immediately you get that smoke. Okay.
Yes.
And in your room, suppose on one corner you keep that agarbatti, you will get a strong, you can say that essence of the agarbatti in one side.
Essence.
But after some time, if you notice that smell of agarbatti will be there in the entire room.
Ha.
Okay.
Yes.
Similarly,
Correct.
for example, instead of agavati, suppose you take a perfume spray,
Okay.
okay, and you spray it in one corner of a room. So you will be able to
Hmm.
get it
Okay.
immediately in the entire room. Okay.
Oh. Okay.
Similarly, if you take a beaker of water, okay,
Hmm.
and at the top you add a few drops of the ink.
Ink. Acha.
Yes.
Okay.
So ink एकदम dark blue color होता है.
Yes.
So wherever the ink touches the water, there it is dark blue. But
Ha.
after some time, a few minutes later, what will you see? You will see that the ink has spread out in the entire water, and the whole water has got its
Oh.
uniform blue color.
Okay. Got it.
These examples that I'm telling about is nothing but diffusion. So now
Oh.
you
Acha.
understand
Okay.
this in the diagram. Okay, there is a
Hmm.
high concentration of the solutes.
Salute.
So either the molecules of that agabatti or that perfume spray or the ink,
Hmm.
वो यहाँ पे high concentration. So they are
Okay.
moving
Okay.
towards a region having low concentration. Yeah, no concentration of the solute.
Okay. Got
So you
it.
spray it in one corner, it will spread out everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And when this movement is taking place, there is no membrane in between.
Oh. Okay.
It is without a membrane.
Oh.
That process is called
What?
diffusion. Okay. So now this
Diffusion. Okay.
process you
Got
have
it.
to correlate with absorption of the minerals from the soil.
Absorption of
Okay.
minerals from the soil.
Minerals. So
That.
the soil has got its own minerals: calcium, and nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, sulfur,
Yes.
magnesium, manganese, molybdenum, etc.
Hmm.
All these
Hmm.
are in the ionic forms in the soil. Okay, and
Yes.
they have to enter the plant cells in the root hair along with the water.
Correct.
That takes place by
Yes.
simple diffusion process.
Of
Okay,
course.
so
Yeah.
it's a
Okay. Got it.
physical phenomenon where there is a movement of ions against the concentration gradient till it reaches an
Hmm.
equilibrium point. Equilibrium matlab where the concentration
Oh.
on
Okay.
both the sides will be the same. Till that
Okay. Got
time, the
it.
movement will take place from a high
Hmm.
concentration of solute to low concentration of
Low
solute.
consider. Yes.
Okay,
Okay. Got
and
it.
obviously
Yes.
the movement here is taking place because there is a concentration gradient. There is a
Correct.
difference in the concentration. That's why the
Hmm.
movement is taking place. Okay,
Correct.
so in the
Hmm.
plants, why this gradient is created or how it is
Why?
created? Because on one side there is transpiration going on. There is a loss of
Yes.
water from the leaves and the aerial parts going on. So there is a loss of
Hmm.
water, difference in the concentration.
Correct.
Okay, the ions which are absorbed by the plant cells, they are
Hmm.
utilized, they are assimilated,
Ha.
or if not assimilated, they are compartmentalized. That means they are converted into some compound and stored within the plant cells, either into the
Correct.
vacuoles or somewhere. So in the root
Yes. Yes.
cells, ultimately what happens, there is a deficit or a decrease of the water content as well as the
Hmm.
ion content.
Yes.
So between the root hair cell and the surrounding water, now there is a gradient created.
Oh. Okay.
Because
Got
of
it.
that, water with the minerals enter the root hair.
Mm-hmm.
The concentration gradient is necessary. Okay, so
Okay. Got it.
diffusion is therefore a very significant process for the
Hmm.
plants because it is the very effective means of transport for short distance. That means from the
Okay.
soil to the root hair.
Yes. Yes.
Got
Okay.
it?
Got it.
Okay,
Yes.
that is very
Huh.
important for diffusion. Okay, now there is something
Diffusion.
called diffusion pressure.
Pressure.
Diffusion pressure, also called DP. Okay, now DP
Okay.
is
Got
not
it.
the one that we normally use. Okay,
Yes.
that
Yes.
DP
Of
is
course.
different. यहाँ पर है diffusion pressure. Okay, diffusion
Okay.
pressure means when the diffusion
Hmm.
is taking place, how many such particles are getting diffused? Ions, molecules, and
Oh.
all.
Acha.
तो जितना
Okay.
ज़्यादा particles diffuse हो रहे हैं, उतना ज़्यादा diffusion pressure.
Okay.
Okay,
Got it.
so the DP
Yes.
of pure water is always
Huh?
more than the DP of any other solvent.
Oh.
Okay,
Okay.
pure water का
Yes.
DP सबसे ज़्यादा है. Okay, बाकी
Yes.
सारे
Okay.
solvent का according to pure water it is less.
Okay, got it.
So when
Hmm.
you take a difference of diffusion
Hmm.
pressure between pure water and diffusion pressure of a solvent,
Hmm.
दोनों के वैल्यूज में जो डिफरेंस आएगा दैट इज कॉल्ड एज डिफ्यूजन प्रेशर डेफिसिट, DPD.
Deficit. Okay.
Okay, the difference between
Yes.
the DP of pure water and difference and the DP of a solvent.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so जो DPD है diffusion pressure deficit, it is also
Hmm.
called as suction pressure, SP.
Suction.
Okay, suction force करके होता है ना, the water is just put in,
Yes, yes.
taken inside, वो
हाँ.
word से आया है, so that is
Oh,
suction
okay.
pressure.
समझा मेरे को.
That
Yes.
is nothing but the diffusion pressure deficit. Okay,
Yes,
and this
got
term
it.
was coined by B.S. Mayer in 1938.
Okay.
So understood the meaning
got it.
of these terms:
Yes,
diffusion,
understood.
diffusion pressure
Hmm.
deficit, also called as
Hmm.
suction pressure, and which was coined
Hmm.
by Mayer in 1938. Is
Yes,
it clear?
correct. Clear.
Okay,
Very clear.
अच्छी तरह से.
हाँ.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, quickly
Yes.
let us take a look at osmosis also, so that we can finish of the absorption of water by the
Osmosis.
plants.
Yes.
ठीक है?
हाँ.
Osmosis
Hmm.
क्या है basically? It is similar to diffusion, but main difference क्या है? Here you can see the solute concentration is less, solute concentration is high, and there is a
Oh,
semi-permeable membrane between both of them.
Semi-permeable membrane. Yes.
So when the movement of the solvent takes place from a low solute to a high solute region,
Yes.
okay, then it is called as osmosis. Diffusion में क्या था?
ठीक है.
It is movement of the solute from a region of
Yes.
high concentration to a region of low
To a
concentration
low concentration. Yes.
without any semi-permeable membrane.
Yes.
Okay, that was diffusion. Osmosis में क्या है?
Yes.
There is a semi-permeable membrane involved, and it is movement of the solvent from a region of
Yes.
high concentration of solvent to a region of
To a
low
low
concentration
yes.
of solvent. ये उसका
Solvent.
definition,
Yes.
osmosis का. Okay, so the
Okay.
movement
Got
of
it.
water molecules from a solution of lower concentration to a solution of higher concentration across a semi-permeable membrane.
Membrane. Yes.
So whatever is the pressure and whatever is the concentration gradient, that determines the direction and the rate of osmosis.
Okay, got it.
Got it? Definition समझा अच्छी तरह से?
Yes.
Okay.
हाँ समझा.
Okay.
Yes.
See this.
ये तो easy है. Okay, got it.
Actually, so water moves into the soil. Water moves from the soil into the roots. You can see the arrow.
Yes.
It is entering,
Yes, yes.
and then it is reaching the leaves. Okay. So osmosis क्यों important है plants के लिए? Because the roots are able to gain water by osmosis. पहले imbibition होगा.
Oh.
After that will be osmosis. Okay. So when the osmosis takes place, water enters the plant cells. The plant cells become turgid, मतलब stiff.
Turgid.
Cell
Yes,
wall gets a
correct.
complete shape. That's why the plant remains upright.
Upright.
Remember,
Yes.
starting में मैंने पूछा था 3-4 दिन के लिए अगर गांव चले जाते हैं अपने घर के प्लांट को पानी नहीं मिलते हैं, so you see the plant has got a withered appearance. When you add water to it, it becomes stout again.
Yes.
So that is mainly because of osmosis. Every cell is getting that water.
Oh. Okay.
Got it?
Got it.
Okay. Just a second. Just a second.
Okay. Okay.
Visible footing. Okay. Now there is something called osmotic pressure, also called OP. पहले जो देखा था that was diffusion pressure. Okay.
Yes.
So OP क्या है? Simply to understand, osmosis हो रहा है cell के अंदर. But if I want to prevent the osmosis from taking place, I need to apply some pressure. That is osmotic pressure.
Oh.
So osmotic pressure of a solution is equal to the pressure required to prevent the passage of a solvent into it through a semi-permeable membrane. So osmosis को prevent करने के लिए. Getting it?
Okay.
And इसको symbolically represent करते हैं with the symbol called pi, a Greek letter, you know that.
Pi. Yes.
Okay, so OP
Hmm.
of pure water is always 0. ये values याद रखो.
Hmm. Hmm.
ठीक है, pure water का osmotic pressure is 0. Okay,
Oh.
and
Yes.
in the solvent, that means in the water, okay,
Hmm.
whatever is the number of solute molecules which are added, जितना ज्यादा
Hmm.
solute molecules होगा उतना उसका osmotic pressure बढ़ेगा.
Okay. Okay.
So more is the solute concentration, greater will be the osmotic pressure.
Oh. Okay. Got it.
Okay, because उतने particles बढ़ जाएंगे ना solution में.
Hmm. Correct.
Okay, that point you have to remember. So based on that,
Okay, I will.
solutions are of 3 types: hypotonic, isotonic, and hypertonic.
What?
Okay, tonic या
Hypo.
tonicity का मतलब है concentration.
Yes.
Concentration का meaning है amount of solutes which are present in a solvent in a given solution.
Hmm. Yes.
इसको बोलेंगे
Yes. Correct.
concentration. Okay,
Yes.
so basically hypotonic means what? Hypo means less.
Yes.
So
Correct.
hypotonic means, now this orange part you consider as the plant cell and ये
Hmm.
बाहर का solution outside the cell.
Yes.
So compared to inside the cell and outside the cell, you can see more solute particles here, less of them over
Hmm.
here.
हाँ.
So
Yes.
it's a
Of course.
hypotonic solution. इसका
Oh.
opposite
अच्छा.
है
Okay. Got it.
hypertonic. You can see number of
Hyper.
solutes are more outside the plant cell as compared to in.
Hmm.
That's why it is
Yes.
hypertonic. And if the
Yes.
amount, if the concentration, if the amount of solutes are almost equal
Yes.
inside and outside the cell, it is called
Hmm.
isotonic solution.
Isotonic
Iso
solution.
means same.
Okay. Got it.
तो प्लांट के
Yes.
सेल को किसी भी सॉल्यूशन में जब रखते हैं तो ऑस्मोसिस का
हाँ.
डायरेक्शन क्या होता है? So if the plant
क्या
cell
होता
is kept in an isotonic solution, that means
है?
the
Isotonic.
concentration of the substances is same outside and inside the cell.
Of course. Yes.
So what will happen? There will be solvent movement. Water molecules will move inside as well as outside. You cannot say that
Outside.
no
Yes.
osmosis takes place. Osmosis
Yes.
taking place in both the directions, but they are equal.
Hmm.
And that's why the whole system is said to be in equilibrium when the plant cell is kept in an isotonic condition. So there is
Correct.
no net flow of water. Okay, and the cell
Net
becomes
flow of
a
water?
flaccid because total almost the amount of
Yes.
water in and out remains the same. Net osmosis
हाँ.
is
Correct.
balanced. That is
Yes.
isotonic. But if I keep the plant cell in a hypotonic solution,
Hmm.
तो क्या होगा? That means concentration of solutes is more inside, less outside.
Hmm.
तो
Yes.
पानी जो है वो अंदर कम है, बाहर ज्यादा.
Yes. Yes.
If it
Correct.
is hypotonic, okay.
Hmm.
So because the amount of solvent is more outside and less inside, there will be a movement of the solvent. You can
Yes.
see the direction of the water molecules now.
Yes.
Water will enter the cell, diffuse into the cell. तो सेल जो ऐसे पिचका हुआ था अब वो फूक जाएगा.
Yes.
We call it, now we say that the cell becomes turgid
Turgid.
because the
Okay. Got
water
it.
is entering the cell inside the cell, so we call it end osmosis. Endo
End
मतलब
osmosis.
inside.
हाँ. Correct.
So
Yes.
water is entering inside the cell, that's why end osmosis.
Okay. Got it.
So this is responsible for cell enlargement and extension growth.
Okay.
Got it? And इसका
Yes.
उल्टा होगा when the cell is kept in a hypertonic solution,
Hypertonic.
because water is more inside the cell as compared to outside.
Hmm.
So in a hypertonic condition, what will happen? You can see the direction now. Exactly the reverse will take place. Water is more
Yes.
inside, so more water will just move out. Moving
Yes.
out, exo. That's why exosmosis.
Exo. Yes.
Okay, so when the water content inside the cell decreases, the protoplasm will shrink. पहले वाला में
Shrink.
turgid
Yes.
हो, अब वो shrink हो.
हाँ.
And that
हाँ.
phenomenon is called plasmolysis. It
Plasmolysis.
is exosmosis,
Okay.
due to which plasmolysis takes place.
Yes.
But
Correct.
plasmolysis to some extent can be reversed.
Reversed?
Hypertonic solution में रखने के वजह से plasmolysis हुआ, तो प्रोटोप्लाज्म
Oh.
से श्रिंक हो गया साइटोप्लाज्म एंड साइटोप्लाज्म कम्स इन द सेंटर. So if the same
Oh.
plasmolized cell, if I'm keeping that back in a hypotonic solution, water will enter and osmosis will take
Oh
place.
no. Yes,
तो
you're
उसको
right.
reverse कर सकते.
Yes, yes.
So according to the position of the root hair, now it will depend from one individual to another. This cannot be generalized. Soil कैसा
Yes.
है, उसमें पानी कैसा है, root का hair में क्या concentration है, what is the transpiration level, इन सारे factors पे depend करते हैं. But all
Correct.
these processes are involved and they are regulated as per the requirement.
As per the requirement.
Absorption ultimately होगा.
होगा.
Okay.
Yes.
So absorption क्यों
Yes.
necessary है plants के लिए? Because it is because of this that the water moves from the soil into the root hair cell या root epidermis.
Correct. Yes.
And especially the non-woody plants, so herbaceous plants होते हैं, उनके हर एक सेल का turgidity बना रहेगा तो the plants can stand erect.
Correct. Yes.
That's why they depend upon water for it.
Yes, you're right.
And if the water loss is too much, the plant cells will become flaccid and the plant will just wilt or wither and die.
Yes.
So more than a limit, if the plant cell shrinks, then you cannot revive it back. Okay, that is important. So अभी plasmolysis
Okay,
हमने
got
देखा
it.
था कि the protoplasm moves away from the cell. So some cells are there जिसमें practically when you give a stain, safranine stain वगैरह use करते हैं, so you can observe the plasmolysis under the microscope.
Oh, हाँ.
Okay. Yes, I'll show you the.
Okay. Sure, sure.
Can you see the plasmolized cells in between?
Yes.
See, ये light pink वाला देखना, it is a normal turgid cell.
हाँ.
But ये वाला देखना. Can you see the cell content shrink towards one side?
Yes, yes, of course, yes.
And इसी को plasmolized cells को अगर मैं hypotonic solution में रख देता हूँ, it will become deplasmolized.
Deplasmolized.
That means now the cell has become turgid again. Can you notice the difference?
Turgid, yes.
तो plasmolysis के effect को nullify कर सकते हैं if you are placing it back in a hypotonic solution.
Correct. Yes.
That is the importance. Okay. Any doubts? Sure.
No doubt.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
So we have basically seen the main steps of absorption of water by the roots of plants. That is imbibition, diffusion, and osmosis.
Osmosis.
Okay, but the story obviously doesn't end over here. There are many more concepts to come, and we have to see detailed transpiration, right? So इस कहानी को अभी के लिए यहीं पे रोक लेते हैं. In the next session, we will continue from here. We will see different concepts like turgor pressure, how it is necessary for the further translocation to take place, followed by transpiration, and all this process which are taking place within the plant system. All are associated with water. Okay.
Yes.
So you have understood everything till now properly. All these concepts are very, very important. The meanings and the respective values. Okay. Okay. So we will stop here for now. ठीक है?
Okay, चलेगा.
Okay.